seeing WTY Bill in that opening sequence. Makes me giggle a bit. He looks like some sort of extravagant, outgoing boxing promoter or something. Remember him, of course, from various championships over the years, as we do Xhope. And he'll be taking on Fr0zen, who we see a lot of in America's Grandmasters. And Fr0zen's got it to do today. He has brought, in this last hero standing lineup, Demon Hunter, Galacon Priest, Highlander Mage, and a Control Warrior. Whereas Xhope has brought Zoo, Face Hunter, Demon Hunter, and Warrior. And as you can see there, Fr0zen's control-ish warrior with bombs and things has been banned out. Starting how I mean to go on. And the Demon Hunter was deemed the most aggressive of the last hero decks. And that makes sense to me. I'm not usually a fan of Demon Hunter bans, but in last hero it makes more sense because you do get to target the warrior with your priest. And even the opening choices in Last Hero Standing can be quite interesting. We see Fr0zen not opening with a priest because he wants to target the warrior with it when he gets the chance. Xhope opening with the warrior because he assumes that Fr0zen won't open with the priest. There's still a large element of guesswork, but even so, it makes sense to me. And you can probably go even one further, that the mage is okay against the warrior as well. Preserve your Demon Hunter. So you end up with this. Obviously there's a lot of he knows going on. But what I know is that this is the egg variant of the warrior because there is an egg in his hand alongside Corsair Cash and in a rage. Gonna get a very fast start potentially here. Mage is also looking okay. It does have this slow start and some of the cards in Mage are just not conducive to playing against Warrior. Imprisoned Observer, of course, is good. It clears boards, but if you play around it, it can actually just be a nuisance for the person playing it. Nicely balanced card. Rena the Relicologist, of course, looking to do maximum damage on turn 5 or 6. And Fr0zen, be interesting to see when he does use his coin. It's Xhope's job to try and get Fr0zen to use that coin as early as possible, so Fr0zen doesn't have access to the big 3 8-drops, the Deep Freeze, the Power of Creation, and the Pilgrim. This is an awkward decision. The reason it's awkward is that this is what you want to do. You want to put the most attack on the board as you possibly can and get that damage in as quickly as possible. But you've committed yourself to not playing Corsair Cash anytime soon. You'll probably pick up something else to do next turn. You really want to get this Ankar played. And now you've drawn a weapon that half the time you wouldn't have drawn if you'd played Corsair Cash. I think Xhope made the right play, but it can be very difficult to untangle this mess of weapons and Corsair Caches when you're trying to completely maximise your damage. Because this is one of the problems of the ban and Demon Hunter strategy. It involves leaving up the best deck in the game. But again, even if Fr0zen loses this game, that's looking like he's off to a great start. He may not even lose it, but even if he does, he gets the priest into the warrior, which is still under some debate as to... I think the debate really is to how this version with eggs, how unfavoured it is. There has been a show match between very strong players, Tic Tac and Zanananan, taking on the priest, and it was Meaty and Gabby playing the warrior, and Meaty and Gabby won 8-3 in that show match. But it was teched out with the meaty version of the deck, the Captain Greenskin and the Deathwing, etc., which is definitely better against priests. But we've still got to get there yet. Xhope, though, picking up that Rampage was really, really well needed. Makes a massive difference to how this game's going to go now, because he has now just put a lot of attack on the board and does finally decide that now's the time to play this Corsair Cash. Obviously, multiple reasons for that. First of all, you're playing a minion into the undormantified Observer, which wouldn't be too bad if you want to put an extra point of attack down with the Armorsmith. But also there's the very real 1 in 20 chance that you just draw the weapon. And that would have been disaster. First of all, you don't really want to draw another weapon. You've got weapons galore here. You've got enough weapons to the end of the game. But you want to draw other cards, and you want your Corsair Cash not to be useless. So it was pretty much essential that he played it that turn. Also, it just gets you more damage on the board with the better weapon. These weapons really are stronger than they appear when they're generating lackeys. Lackeys in this warrior deck are supremely helpful. You get a lot of value from the dragon, from the spells, or you just get fundamental damage and usage. +1 on rush, +2 health, plus just 2 to the face. This is all very good. The only one that isn't so good really is the one that evolves, and even that can usually find a use somewhere along the line, although not so much with the non-greenskin version, I guess. So, that all being said though, looking at it from Fr0zen's point of view for a moment, he has now grabbed control of the board. That's a lot of damage to the face. That's actually a relevant amount of damage to the face, that's 6. But Fr0zen does seem to be turning the corner, and he needs to. What he will try and do here on in, and don't forget he's only got 5 mana, he has used up the coin, is he'll want to get to the stage where he can freeze face with deep freeze, which there's every chance he'll get by turn 8. Well, not every chance, it's a 1 in 7 chance. But you know, there's other ways of generating freeze in the deck. And freeze down as much as possible.
It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too, Innkeeper. And yeah, freeze down as many things as he can, as I was so rudely interrupted by the Innkeeper there. And therefore it's Xhope's duty to get as much damage in as possible before that happens. This Deathwing is a superb pickup. This could make a lot of difference because it gives him a board clear. And as you can see, Fr0zen down to 8. Not many board clears are going to be required to win this, as he picks up Ice Barrier and suddenly he's on 16. That's a huge deal. The only sources of damage for the warrior are generated spells, which can occasionally get damage, or just lackeys. But basically you're not getting through very often an Ice Barrier without actually setting it off. Fr0zen would like to play it next turn alongside the Conjurer's Calling. Just because that adds up to 7 and 7's good, but yeah, he's too low, he can't take the risk. And the process of freezing and fighting back, trying to win the game in a hurry, has begun. And this is how you do beat the warrior with the mage, if you can. You instigate this weird race where you start off miles behind, but because you're freezing their stuff, as Xhope gets the bad news that what he suspected happens there with the health gain. But yeah, you instigate this race as the mage. You start off miles behind, but you kill the warrior in 2 or 3 turns. And you make it a very real problem that you're going to kill them, at which point they have to stop hitting you in the face. So playing the eggs are a possibility here, because the Deathwing turn, the Deathwing probably going to take a lot of damage. You're wanting to play it next turn. I think he's looking at ways of clearing using the double skipper here. Does also have the backup plan of shooting something and buffing it with Rampage, or skippering and buffing with Rampage. That's always an ongoing thing. Oof. Fr0zen just about stemmed the flow here. No combo in Xhope's hand either at the moment. Just going to double check that he is playing Grom. I think it was just week 1 when they were not. Yeah, he's playing Grom. He's only playing 1 Corcoran. But that's plenty. Corcoran buffed with mercenaries. Off you go. Minimum of 8 damage, often 12. Can be more than that as well. And the game's going to just hit pause next turn. Interesting to see Fr0zen really taking his time. In my mind, he tends to be a faster player, but showing what this means to him by playing the slowest I remember Fr0zen playing. But Mage is more than just a box. At least sometimes. So guaranteed a full clear with the Deathwing. It's also guaranteed to die. So we'll look for other options depending what happens here. Can just go wide into a Brute. And probably kill both of the opposing minions off, actually. Just by doing so much damage, you play the Brute and then you kill one of the 5 health minions just with your Kobold Lackey. Definitely a possibility. Of course, the Imprisoned Antane, I said it a lot on like the first 3 days of the expansion when this was in every Demon Hunter deck. It's a bit of a nightmare to deal with. Like the 10 damage can work both ways though. You can actually get it so it helps you with its pings, making life very complicated for Xhope. But does instead split the difference here. Waiting to continue this race that he was winning so handsomely and is back in front again now. Told you to pick up the Deep Freeze. Never in doubt. So plenty of attack on the board for Fr0zen now. But is he just dead? I think he is. Here you go. 7 points of rampaging damage. Didn't even need to use the weapon. And Xhope takes down a very important game number 1. Very important because he keeps his warrior alive in the last hero standing. And the mage, which can be a thorn in the side from time to time, is down. But now, the tough one. The whole match could well decide on this. Fr0zen's other deck is the Demon Hunter. And you would think that the warrior... Well, the warrior just wins a huge percentage against Demon Hunter. So we'll want to get it done with the priest, which... It's so hard to put a number on this matchup. My instinct is that it's very close to 50-50, with the priest being maybe 55. But this was played a little while ago. I think the priest was a bigger favourite then. I don't think that the warriors had quite got to grips with it then. So you'd make Fr0zen a decent favourite to take this second game down. Just look at his hand for Xhope. He's one injury-making card away from just having a monster of a start here. Maybe we'll rename him Xhope. Huh. Jokes work so well when you've got no one to bounce them off. So, Egg, Terron. You don't really want to play Terrons when it's not doing something. They can get stolen and bad things happen. So, playing it early and getting rid of it early is a big deal. And this is looking really, really good. He's got to keep his wits about him though. If they do get Shadow Madness and then blown up, give Fr0zen some eggs of his own, then you can suddenly find yourself a long way behind. And Shadow Madness is actually one of the key cards to constantly think about in this matchup. Everything you do is influenced by how Shadow Madness would interact with the card. And Xhope deep in the tank here. You've got to have your wits about you all of the time. This is one of the reasons that, especially at first, Priest was so favoured in this matchup. It's because the Warrior just can't mess up. The Priest has a little bit of leeway to mess up because a lot of its cards do the same thing or similar enough things you can get away with it. But the Warrior has to play around those differences, whereas for the Priest it's kind of obvious. At least at the start of the game, before the full nonsense of all of the randomly generated Galacon minions kicks in. At which point both players have to be well awake. So this is the turn that Xhope's scared of. Obviously your instinct is to insta-jam Terron and just see what happens, making a nice wide board. But you just got to double check, triple check, etc. that they can't steal it and kill it. But it's unlikely that they could. They would have to be able to damage it as well as spend the 3 mana on the Shadow Madness, so it's a good time to risk it. Yeah. He's not enjoying this part. Plus it can get silenced, which isn't a disaster, but you don't want it to be. And also you've now got a turn or two where you're actively trying to stop it getting stolen. You like want it to die or at least buff it out of range, which we might see him trade and rampage next turn, just to stop that Shadow Madness from stealing the turn. But if you're playing the card in your deck, you've got to use the card. Okay, let's see how he approaches this. And that is indeed what he does. It looks so strange because now it's like a double silence target. But it's all about that Shadow Madness. It's all about getting stolen, literally trading into Xhope's minions, killing off the Terran, and Fr0zen suddenly gets 2 eggs that are buffed so they can attack and then they turn into minions. And you just lose the value competition there. So yeah, you've got to do a little bit of gymnastics to get the value out of your Terran, and Xhope has gymnasticified absolutely perfectly here. Still plenty of ways for Fr0zen to deal with it, of course, but yeah, if you time rip this now, all you do is generate some more eggs, and then you've got to kill the eggs. So yeah, leaving the Terran up. Maybe death it next turn when you're in a better space to deal with it. Xhope not messing around though. He wants to get that risky skipper into his hands before this board is dealt with, so he can next turn battle rage a huge number of cards. What if we'll see him armour up, or if he won't bother? I think he might not bother here. Yeah, he's looking to battle rage next turn, and doesn't want to take the chance that he attacks into something small that doesn't injure him through the 2 armour. It's usually wrong, weirdly enough, to not armour up, but in this exact situation, I like his choice. So regular players of this will know that Apotheosis is a massive deal in this matchup. Just when you think you've got the priest down to the end, they Apotheosis a minion, hit you in the face, and suddenly before you know it they're back at 30. But that involves Fr0zen actually having a minion on the board to put the Apotheosis on at the start of the turn. At least usually at the start of the turn, unless it's like a taunt. Otherwise it just gets ignored and you get killed. Or the minion gets shot down, or Xhope gets the best trades out of it at least. So Fr0zen attending to more urgent matters here. Just getting something he can get on the board. And the problem isn't so much this exact board right now. This is 6 damage if you count the weapon. And that's a nice amount of damage, but it's not menacing as such. Huh. It's going to be menacing in a minute though, after this skipper's played. But the issue is going to be he can't deal with it. He can't leave it there. You can't keep taking 7. And the idea really is to deal with this sort of board with your minions, with your Shield of Galakrond. But these eggs are just making it impossible. Like, they're going to have to sit there. Yeah, you're going to see Fr0zen probably get quite sad when he sees this Battle Rage. Because not only has Fr0zen got to deal with the stuff I've just been talking about, but he's got to deal with a whole new hand of cards. Including potential combo kills. There is the Grommash and the Inner Rage, so there's a 12 point from hand available. Xhope needs to decide whether it's worth playing the Brute here. It will kill off 2 of his own minions. But it puts a huge minion into play. Yeah, and he decides, okay, necessary evil. It's one of the weird things about this deck. It spends half the time avoiding the troubles it's caused itself. Breath of the Infinite for Fr0zen. It's going to allow him to clear up in his own time, but still not really wanting to break these eggs. And Xhope this turn will be looking to put Fr0zen to 12 and clear up the board. He knows there's plenty of things Fr0zen can do to get off 12, but if you're threatening lethal every turn, that's good. Also, at some point in the future, he does have the mercenaries available too. Quite sure the best way of doing this. Brute that he's reaching for looks good. That does rule out the Corsair cache. Yeah, I like this better. You don't need that skipper injuring your eggs anymore. The Brute will cost exactly the same because you then injure the shield instead of the skipper, so it's the same number of injured minions. Now he's decided he wants to break the eggs. And I'm not sure. I guess the choice is still in his hands to some degree. Fr0zen down to 15, but now things are getting a little bit more urgent. Can't really play Galakrond with those eggs there. Down to 1 Shadow Word Death. Breath of the Infinite breaks the eggs, which again is awkward. So he needs a 2-turn plan. He needs a plan that gets rid of the board over 2 turns. He needs to kill everything over the next 2 turns. Or somehow, maybe at least look at his Temple Enforcer making a huge taunt minion, but I don't think it's big enough, to be honest. Which might buy him some time to start fighting back. Double Breath in hand is worth noting, because then he can kill the serpents from the eggs in 1 turn with 2 of those. Just going for the health route. That's one way of buying some more time, I guess. Is it though? This is lethal, 12 plus 8. So Grom in a Rage puts the 12-point Grom there, and the rest of the board is 8 damage. That's exactly 20. That's exact lethal. Yep. Caster Math is on form today, and 20 points of damage in 1 turn through a taunt. And Team Liquid and Fr0zen are 2-0 down, and they've got to come back with their Demon Hunter. And if they do get rid of the warrior, there's a Face Hunter and a Zoolock waiting in store. So not the best position at all for Fr0zen here. But that's a nice hand. That's a very good starting hand. Complete with beaming sidekick technology. Which is obviously standard now, but not so much when this was played. This was still the domain of Orange, talking about how good the sidekick was. And interestingly, throws the Altruis. Which is interesting, because that is often very irritating for the warrior, but I think Fr0zen's deemed it too slow. Demon Hunter mulligan's one of the hardest things in current Hearthstone. Okay, egg, and it can be copied by mercenaries next turn, and all sorts of other things can be done as well. But 2/2 egg, 2/2/2 eggs, and a mercenaries I believe is 3/3. We'll know it when we see it. Big deal, but look at this board they're going to be up against. Oh my, this mulligan from Fr0zen. This is what he was looking for. Deal with that lot. Well, I say that semi-jokingly, but actually he might be able to next turn. Yeah, Fr0zen's just giving them... This is the nod of a man who's not having a good day. It's like, yeah, this was going to happen today, wasn't it? Still, he's in there drawing cards and playing more cards, doing the Demon Hunter things. He's still got control of the board as he sees it, although he's smart enough to know that's not going to last long. Or it might not last long. Skipper into Bomb Wrangler, a big deal for Xhope. Who was always a bit of a nervy character, wasn't he? Still seems to be the same way. As you can see on the capture there, both these teams are 1-1, and this will be the third round of games finished. So halfway through the second week of the action, and only VK on 3-0. VK, we haven't seen a Lion yet, but VK is the home of Lion, our world champion. And they're off to a good start. But the loser of this, 1 and 2, will not be a good start. And it's looking very much like that's going to be Liquid. One of the difficulties for Warrior in this matchup, and there aren't many, Warrior does tend to have a very good strike rate, is that once you've got control of the board, the game isn't over. Against a lot of other decks like Zoo or something, if you get control of the board, you have won the Hearthstone game. But Demon Hunter has so much card draw and so much damage that the Warrior has to find a spot, and this is what Xhope's doing now, where it actually kills the opponent, or gets the opponent low. Otherwise, the Demon Hunter just plays a skull and does it all again, and the Warrior has less resources. So Xhope's job in this phase of the game isn't just to sort of keep killing things and keep control, it is actually to start doing some damage as well. Corsair Cash. Yeah, this is just looking nice now though. The live wire is going to pick up a much needed lackey. Much needed because now the Bomb Wrangler becomes super dangerous. Okay, Fr0zen going with Skull. Needs to decide how he wants to use his Altruis. He's not going to die this turn if he does nothing else. And that would lead into a powerful Altruis turn next turn. Or he could just dump everything on the board and have a powerful turn this turn, but with no Altruis craziness. Maybe the second skull was his motivation here for doing it this way. That's going to be a while before that's played, with Outcast at least. Xhope would, in an ideal world, have the Armorsmith here, but that's a little bit of a red herring if you're somebody who learns how Dex works, but only on a casual level. Like, you'll have heard, yeah, well, the way that Warrior beats Demon Hunter, you get some Armorsmiths and you skip her and you gain 1,000,000 armor and they can't kill you. And that's right. If you do that, that works and that's nice. But you often don't have that luxury. The bomb connects. Very big deal there for Xhope. So you often don't have the luxury of the Armorsmith doing the thing for you, so you do have to just carry on. You don't save your skippers trying to get the armor or anything crazy like that. You do what Xhope's doing here and just build up this chunky board. And even though he hasn't got lethal set up as it stands on board, from Fr0zen's side, there's so many ways he dies here in the next couple of turns. And this is the consequence of his previous turn. If he elected to make that big board, knowing that there was a good chance that Skipper would clear it up and lead to this sort of situation. His other option last turn was to do nothing, which had its own downsides because he would have taken a lot of damage and be facing a board similar to this. The difference being there would be an Altruis in play, which if it dodged the bombs, which by the way you'll have noticed in the previous broadcast was the reason that something I said might be lethal was not lethal. Very hard to reconstruct stuff in your head sometimes. But yeah, if the Altruis dodged the bombs, then Fr0zen would be in a good spot. But he is anything but in a good spot here. So if he draws a 1-drop next turn that he can play and play the skull, maybe he gets okay. And that's just nonsense now. Six, 7, 8, 9. So there's no lethal available here through crazy bombs. And he's playing the brute anyway, so he's deciding to push the extra damage rather than trying to get the value from the bomb. This is the last turn of the game one way or the other, so playing the brute makes absolute sense. There's no value left in the game, you just play everything. Well, Fr0zen does get to play the skull, but he's facing down too much damage. He needs a whole deck of I-beams to get out of this one. And he gives it up, Xhope, for LP. A 3-0 winner, and they progress to 2-1.